everyone, welcome to Handing the Shame Back, a show dedicated to survivors of child sexual abuse here in New Zealand and out across the world. My name is Gloria Masters, I'm your host, and it's such an honour to bring this to you every week. You know, there are so many of us out there and our words are so important, and it's time for us to feel empowered, and doing this is one way, because every time we speak, we are handing the shame back. As with all shows, this begins with a trigger warning. Please, if for any reason you feel upset or disturbed by what you're listening to and watching, I encourage you to stop doing that. Go to the show notes below and you'll be guided to some resource and support. In the meantime, I have an amazing guest for you, and it's such a privilege to bring him to you today. It's not often I get to interview people from my homeland, so I've got this wonderful man here from Hamilton in the North Island in New Zealand. He is a survivor. He is training to be a peer support person and worker. He runs a men's group, and he's also running a men's private group. So, you know, great honour to introduce to you today, Alan Goodall. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gloria, and hello, everyone.
Nice to see you here.
Thank you. Yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah.
A little bit nervous, but hey, that's life.
And look, everybody is, yeah. And so I promise I will look after you.
Cool.
So,
Thank you.
Alan, we usually start this with whatever you're comfortable to share. Clearly, we are talking child sexual abuse, and one thing or many things you say may help our beautiful male survivors watching and also the female ones. So I guess my first question is, how old were you when the abuse began?
I can't remember the age exactly, but I'm presuming about three or four.
Okay.
The person who did the abuse came into the family as a family friend and a worker for my dad on the farm, and stayed with us for quite a few years. And as I got older, I used to sleep out in the batch, and him being a farm worker used to sleep out in the batch too. Before the batch, he used to sleep in the same room as me. He did go to Australia for a couple of years and worked over there. And by that stage, I'd got a bit older. When he came back to New Zealand, I was 14, and he thought he could carry on from where he left off, and that's when I put a stop to it. I can remember things quite clearly: sounds, smells, taste, you name it. It's all there.
Yeah.
I don't get triggered by it anymore. That's been a long journey for me to learn not to get triggered by it. And instead of getting triggered by it as being a trigger, I use it as a strength to help myself and other people. So, and saying that sort of helps people realize that it's not a lifelong trigger. It's how you deal with it. Reduces the chance, or not reduces the chance, but makes it easier when things are trigger you. It's your decision in your mind how it's going to work on you. And you can take it down the bad road, or you can say, hey, I'm not going to be triggered by this piece of crap. I'm just going to carry on and beat it.
Amazing. And I love that you found a way to navigate that. I know for me with triggers and, oh, hello, lovely audience, forgot to say hello to you. But I know we do get triggered. That's just part of what happens. But what I've started to view it as, and I think you'll love this, Alan, is it's actually just confirmation that what I said happened.
Yeah. And the way I see it perfect, just recently we had a new member come into group, and you know, when they first come in, they're extremely nervous and all that sort of stuff. and I relax them and talk to them. And in doing so, I give them a bit of my information so they know that I know what they're talking about. I've been there, I've had that.
Yeah.
And my sexual abuse, there was 3 perpetrators, one main and 2 others tried, but never carried on. Um, but one of them happened to be a high school teacher at Eastcombe High School when I was in the 3rd form, and he did portraits and of students, and he tried. And I was telling this new gentleman this, and he knew who he was and stuff like that. And instead of triggering me, it was like, yes, finally, someone out there knows this person that's been in my mind, because all these years you think of these things and you think, when did it happen? I know it happened, but you always had that doubt with your girl, with everything else. And to have someone say something like that is just, yeah, verifies everything that you've been going on about. Mm.
It's amazing. And, you had 3 perpetrators, and one was a high school teacher in your first year at high school. And, because of the instant power differential, you know, where do you go with that? What do you do with that? So I
Mm.
guess I just wanted to ask you, as a littlie and being at home, and mum and dad clearly felt it was okay for this initial perpetrator to share a bedroom with you. Were you ever able, or has there ever been an opportunity for you to share with your parents what did go on?
Yes, and it was only recently. When I say recently, in the last 5 years, 5 to 6 years, my stepdad, who brought me up, he's now passed. My mother's still alive; she's 95, and sadly, Mum won't accept it. Just it's over her. Just, yeah, she even brought something up totally um, unrelated to, well, not unrelated, but not anything to happen that happened with me. And she said, I can't understand men that do that sort of thing with other men and blah, blah, blah. That, they're sick, they're sick, they're sick. And I said, well, Mum, that actually happened to me. Not a reaction, nothing. And my sister was there and she said, well, did you hear what Alan said, Mum? And no, but I've learned to accept that. That's, I can't force people to um, feel horrible or sad for me. She's going through emotions, whatever they are. And if it's easier for her to say it didn't happen in the mine or whatever she's saying, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
And good for you, because it's a really good point you raised. So survivors watching, if people won't accept, if people who are close to you and were uh, targeted actually with your care and protection as a parent or a step parent, or an older relative, and they cannot accept your truth and your reality, it simply means they're just unable to, because their mind won't allow them to. So
Yeah.
for some people, we know that they can be gatekeepers and enablers, and it's a deliberate knowledge. But for others, I suspect, like Helen, your mum, it wasn't that. It was just, it's inconceivable. So that whole cognitive dissonance kicks in.
Mm.
Can't possibly be true. But the reality,
Or, sorry for butting in, and it's another possibility that she had an inkling but never followed it through or didn't believe it. And then when it's confirmed, well, what do I do now? I mean, it could be the shame in her. She could be feeling quite guilty about it. Um, if she ever decides she wants to talk to me about it, that'd be great. I'm not holding out hope it's going to happen, but I don't want to think about it because it's just yet another dimension of life that you have to worry about. And I've got better things to do. So if they can't accept it, that's it, whatever the reason.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, interesting. I'm thinking too that, as we know, children, and especially small children, can't hide, haven't let yet learn to cover how they feel. So I suspect you would have been showing any way you could that things are very bad or not good at all.
It's very interesting. We've talked in my counselling session about this actual thing. So I'll give a rundown of my life, you know. So this gentleman came in at a certain time when I was 3ish, 4ish. Five-year-old, I started remembering things, and it carried on for a few years. Then he went away for a couple, and then when I was 14, he came back and thought he could carry on where he left off. I can remember behaviours I had was like hiding out in the middle of the paddock or hiding under the house, being quiet. But when I was in a group, I was a big joke. I laughed. I acted the goat. I was the fool, and everyone thought, "Oh, this guy's got a sense of humour. This guy's funny," and all that sort of stuff. And it was all part of my mechanism to block it away. And I did an exercise just recently, and I know that probably won't mean much to people if it can be seen, but
Yeah,
there's a story of a little 3-year-old boy there working through to an adult.
yeah,
And I did this a couple of weeks ago with my counsellor, and it was like an awakening for me, because we were talking about this 3-year-old and what is his world, and his world is just so narrow, so small, because he's only 3. He hasn't lived in the world before. So whatever he does in that time is what he sees fit to protect himself. Get to 5, 7. How big is your world then? It's increased a little bit, but you're still living the 3-year-old and dragging that over to the 5, 7-year-old and using that to protect yourself. And then you have other things like hiding out in the paddock or under the house, or being a big joker and stuff like that. And then as you got to 14, you were 14, but you then knew the rights and wrongs, what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, was this normal, was it not, and all that sort of stuff. And that's when he tried it again. And I won't say the words, but I actually told him a few swear words, and if you ever do it again, I'm going to kill you, and all this sort of stuff. And then I locked it away. Bang, gone. Then I had a life of hell. And what I mean by that is I had panic attacks. I hated public speaking. I was always too scared to stand up in public, go to courses. You had to introduce yourself or introduce the person next to you. And I'd wake up 2 o'clock in the morning, my heart racing, diarrhea, dry throat, panic, panic, panic. The whole time I was at whatever, a wedding venue, dinner with family and friends, or at a course, my whole mind was in panic mode the whole time, just in case someone asks me to do something or I have to get up and do something. So at my wedding, I stood up to speak and opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Or did I feel great about that? Then I got through to my daughter's wedding and I panicked in my life because I knew that's what I'd have to do, is stand up and speak. And I couldn't. I ended up having a breakdown for a month and I was stuck on my couch. But that was a year after I had a quadruple bypass at 49. And the doctor said that that was quite common to have that sort of episode. But deep down, I knew what was triggering behind it was the fear and the panic. So I carried this for 65 years, and I never had counselling as such. I had to pay for it or go through work and have a few sessions and things like that. And a couple of times I paid big money to try and get the help. I even tried acupuncture. But what I was doing was I was going along and trying to get all my symptoms fixed. I never addressed the elephant in the room, which was my abuse. I just locked that away.
yeah,
And because of the abuse, I had all these symptoms, and these symptoms were wrecking my life, or, I thought were wrecking my life. And it was only in recent years where I've brought the two together and realized it was like a big awakening. It was my symptoms I was scared of. I was scared of being scared. I was scared of having panic attacks and all that sort of stuff. What made me scared? What was locked away.
yeah.
So, and bring all that forward and realise that there was a reason for what I was, you know. I managed to stay married. I've been married going on to 48 years this year. I've got 10 grandchildren, 2 children of my own. So I've kept a relatively normal life. I've worked in, my last job was 40 years, and I haven't been in jail or in trouble and on drugs or alcohol, but sometimes I really felt like I needed a drink. No, I did, but I didn't become an alcoholic. So I managed to get through all this relatively unscathed in a normal sense, whatever that is, where when I go to group and I talk to guys there, they've been in trouble with the law. Some of them have committed murder, belong to gangs and things like that. And we've all had the same journey. As we were young, we were born innocent and we got dealt to one way or another. And then our paths went differently. But the start of the journey was similar, you know. And so my job is to show these guys that you don't have to go, well, not my job, my way of helping to show these guys you don't have to go down the bad road. You know, you can live a normal life even though you've got all this terror behind you.
Yeah, and look, I hear what you're saying, and I largely agree. And then I a little bit doesn't, and I just want to share that with you. So
Yep.
survivors watching, take what you're getting from this, because this is powerful stuff. So to me, Alan, you know less or more if you chose the drug route or ended up in jail.
Oh yeah, I'm not putting anybody down.
No, let me finish. I know,
Yeah.
I sense that. I know, I can
Yep.
see that. But what I'm trying to say is, again, to me, it's just clarification, confirmation, and solidifying that, yeah, stuff went on. And this is why I went down that path. So to me, whatever survivors had to do to survive, the fear and the panic and the absolute anxiety attacks that come with this complex post-trauma stress disorder, which we have as survivors, I applaud anyone, including you. We did what we did to try and manage
Yeah,
this.
that's
So
right.
yeah, and I think too, just the journeys we all end up on, we have no idea of where we're going, do we? And we just we we end up where we end up. But I do have a question for you. Did anyone, well, I've got two, did anyone, as you look back, suspect there was anything going on?
No.
No. Okay. Question number two. Who was the third perpetrator, if you're comfortable to share? You said there were three.
Yep. So it was a family friend.
Another
Y-
family friend.
yeah, used to come on a regular basis, spend a lot of time with us and that. And then one night I felt somebody get into my bed and I knew what was about to happen. I ripped him
Yeah.
and that was the last time we ever saw him.
Okay. How old would you have been at that stage?
13-ish,
Yeah.
12, 13.
Gosh. Your stepdad, was he, it's a random question, was he a good dude? Did you feel safe around him?
Yep, feel safe around him. I need to step back a bit.
Yep.
My perpetrator that started it all, he had me, this is why I went down the way I did. He had me in this scared, like if you tell anybody someone might die, you might go to jail, your parents will get taken off you, you'll be put into a hospital. And he kept threatening me with all these things. So a 3-year-old getting threatened like that right through your life, that's huge. And so I grew up for many, many years shit scared of authority figures. So that's police. Because, I got pulled over once by a cop for speeding and my heart was red. I was shaking and I was falling to pieces because I was scared of this authority figure. I was scared of teachers. I was scared of my boss and all this sort of stuff. And it's once I become an adult, I realized I didn't have to be scared of anybody and those people anymore. All my life, I've lived under this massive cloak of fear And then all of a sudden, I've lifted the cloak off, and it sounds easy, but it wasn't. You know, it took a lot of work to get there, but to actually arrive there is really great. It's a release. It's really great.
And it's just, I'm breathing into it with you because the power of it, you talked earlier about, trying to speak at your own wedding, trying to speak at your daughter's wedding, the power of the threat,
Mm.
the power of
The control.
the control,
Mm.
and then we know we're not 3 years old anymore, but the 3-year-old is the one inside us at those
Mm.
events that can't find their voice. Because those threats, the power over and the absolute manipulation and fear, they're very, very real, and
Yeah.
they're really hard to
Oh,
break through.
and that creates what I call a default. So we all live with defaults, and we've got this. This is how I see it. See, everything I say in that is how I see it and how it worked for me. I'm not pushing this on to anybody else. I'm not saying what I did was your way of doing it or anything like that. This is my way,
Yeah.
and it helped me. And all I can hope is that it will help someone else if they choose to go that way. But the fear and all that sort of stuff, and because I went that way, I lost my train of thought. um, what
Well,
were we saying before that?
oh, yeah, we were talking about how living within us is that little
Oh,
person
the default.
threatened.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've all got a default, and it's a good boy, bad boy. You name it, whatever you want. And this one's always telling you, oh, you're okay. I'm here to protect you. You're a good person. All that sort of, this one's going, nah, break the bloody thing, throw something, swear, yell, scream. And when you get into a situation, our default bad boy is our safe area. Doesn't matter what it is, we're safe there. We can go there and release all the tension, swear, break, crash, smash, do whatever we want, hide, because that's our default safe area. The other one, we don't want to go there, because we can't face it yet. But eventually you can face that and you can say, okay, this happened to me. Because some guys see is that they do something and they regret that they done it because the pressure was so much and they just took the default bad side. And then afterwards they have to suffer the consequences of doing that decision. And I say to these guys, well, when you get to that point, you're at that point and you know that you can go this way or that way. What's easier to go, okay, I'll take a breath, step back, reevaluate myself and think if I go down the other road, it's just going to carry on and carry on. If I stay on this road, that's doesn't matter anymore. And that's how I had to work in my head.
Yeah.
And I put it down as I can't be tired. I'm too tired. I can't be bloated. I'm too old now to worry about all the what ifs. You know.
Yeah, there is some. We would agree. I think there is some solace in, as we get older and the lines on our faces deepen, we do gain
The knee
something.
creaks and the back aches. Yeah.
100%. But you know what? You're doing great, and we're coming to the end of part 1. So just do stay right there, Alan, please. And
Okay.
audience, already look at the gold we're getting from this incredible survivor, and not 1, not 2, but 3 perpetrators. And people like to say that child sexual abuse is only a recent phenomenon. No, it's
No.
been around since time began.
As the public, have I got time?
Yes, and then I'll close us out.
As the public see it, it's always to do with institutes and things like that because the media picks on the institute side of abuse.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the media go to a private abuse and show that on the news? No.
Yeah.
So the public see the public side of abuse. Nobody really thinks about the private, and that's why I'm coming out, because I want people to know
Yeah, no,
I'm coming out.
yeah, well, you're there. But look, one thing, well, you said many things, but one thing, just as I'm finishing with you, so don't go anywhere, please, Ellen, is, what was used to keep him quiet. And in Ellen's case, it was threats. And for a little fella at the age of 3, that they've got no cognition, understanding, or awareness that these threats won't be carried out. So I'm very grateful to Ellen, and as always, beautiful ones, I see you, I stand beside you, and I believe you.
Yeah. Thank you.